Associate Curator at the FIDM Museum, and I have been interested in the history of fashion since I was a very little girl, especially the mid-19th century in the United States and Europe. Growing up, I went to the library all the time and I checked out all the fashion history books I could, and I was always drawn to books focused on photographic portraiture, like Joan Severa's Dressed for the Photographer, still one of my favorite books. In high school, I also discovered that my grandma had 2 antique trunks filled with old photos dating from the 1840s to the 1950s. So for every family gathering, I'd say hi to my aunts and uncles, and then I would make my way into the den and look through all the photos. Started working at the FIDM Museum, I learned that we did not have a photography collection, and so I founded one. Today I thought that I would go over the different types of photographic processes you can see if you make a research appointment here. The daguerreotype, my favorite type of image, and it was introduced in 1839. You can see it looks like a little book, and that's because the daguerreotype plate inside was very fragile. It was a silver-coated copper plate. Opening up the case, you can see the image, and it's a woman, mid-1840s, in a plaid dress. And do you see? I'm in there too. And that's what is really special about the daguerreotype, is that it's a mirrored surface. This next photograph looks like a daguerreotype, but it's not. It's an ambrotype, which is a glass plate with a collodion emulsion. It's a negative with black fabric or paper behind it, and I bet he paid extra for those rosy tinted cheeks. They're tintypes, and the tintype uses the same type of process as an ambrotype, except the base is iron, an iron plate. This process was used from the mid-1850s to the turn of the 20th century, and you can see we store them in mylar. This tintype is quite rare. It's an occupational tintype. The woman has brought in her work. She's obviously a seamstress. She's doing basting stitches into fabric. And then here, these gents have brought their bicycles into the studio. This is one of our photo storage boxes. You can see that we use the metal edge boxes for our photography. And in this box, we store carte de visite, or CDV. Each CDV is in its own mylar sleeve, and they're arranged by object ID. These carte de visite, they were popular from the mid-1850s to about the 1880s, and essentially they used a glass plate negative that was then printed on paper with a cardboard backing. I love that you can see all the details of how people styled their clothes. Carte de visite translates from the French into calling card or visiting card, and you can see it's the same size as a typical Victorian calling card, and people exchanged these with friends and family, and they also collected celebrity cards. This is one of my favorite images in the FIDM Museum collection. On the right is Alexandra, Princess of Wales, and on the left, her sister, Dagmar, who was Empress Maria Feodorovna of Russia. You can see that they're dressed alike, something they often did. These are cabinet cards, and they were popular from the mid-1870s to the 19-teens. They're essentially larger carte de visite. The paper images adhered to board. You can see they're much bigger than the carte de visite when you compare them to the size of my hand. Something I enjoy about portrait photography is seeing how people put their ensembles together. What hat was worn with what dress. Something that's really fascinating about this image is the man at the back wears a knit sweater under a blazer. Okay guys, this is like my 5th take on this, and Joanna says I have to get it right this time. This photo dates to the turn of the 20th century. It is a studio portrait, and I'm going to show you that it was possible to bring changes of clothing to your sessions. This is the second image in the series. You see she still wears the same lace dress, but she has paired it with a chiffon mantle and a hat with giant ostrich feathers. And for the last image, she wears a striped dress with the same hat. I think she's an actress. All of the photos I've shown you so far have been studio portraits, but George Eastman invented the Kodak camera in 1888, and that allowed amateur photographers to take photos really anywhere. This little girl, probably in her backyard, wearing her new coat. This is essentially a snapshot, and what was novel about the Kodak camera is that it came preloaded with a roll of film that was then exposed and then sent back to the company for development. This image dates to the mid-1920s. We're so used to taking selfies today and just seeing hundreds if not thousands of photos a day, and early on it was not like that. These images were so precious and so cherished. That's why I love them.